Immigration. Ain't immigration a lovely thing? So many diverse cultures just flooding in to raise that good old GDP, which is just absolutely an amazing metric to know where your money is going and who's making these millions of dollars, at least according to Destiny. So here Destiny makes the points that we're obviously benefiting from immigration because according to him...
Do you think immigration is too high?
Well, I don't even know what that means. And nobody that is even debating it knows what that means.
No, what are we lacking?
More people. Labor is one of your most important economic inputs. Why not have more workers?
So for instance, is immigration too high? Well, for what? It grows the economy because labor is one of the most productive and important inputs to your economy. So in that sense, our GDP grows and our economy grows.
But we have enough workers. We have
Enough for
people.
what?
We have a population of how many people? You would know this.
Well, like 336 million people or something?
Okay, so is 336 million people not enough to suffice our problems?
Well, you can always have more, no?
In terms of cost of housing, probably be negative. It's probably driving prices up a bit because wherever they go, there's going to be an increased demand for houses. In terms of opportunity for locals, depending on what the unemployment is, you could have immigrants that are competing with local workers. Tech workers complain about H-1B immigrants. Some poor people in the South will complain about competing with illegals for work.
Why would you have more if you have enough?
How much money do you have in your bank account? Would you want more?
What I have in my bank account has nothing to do with the reality that we have enough people in the United States to suffice our needs.
How do you define enough?
To say that it's necessarily all good or all bad, or even good or bad, it really depends particularly on the issue that you're talking about.
High immigration leads to an increase in GDP. So if some immigration's good, why not just throw the doors wide open for all these immigrants? America is suffering right now. So it should be self-evident that the cure to this problem is more mass immigration as stated by Destiny. The problem with this, though, is that the GDP in itself doesn't tell you who's benefiting from this or who it might be hurting. A CEO billionaire making an extra zero at the end of his paycheck counts as a rise in GDP, which is quote-unquote good for the economy. But in reality, it doesn't help your everyday American. And with mass immigration, it certainly doesn't help your wages. With mass immigration, you decimate employee wages. I mean, why would a billionaire hire you for a respectable $25 an hour when they can hire somebody else who barely speaks English for so much less? And the left acknowledges that this is true, but they simply say that if the cost of a production for a good or service decreases, that being your wages, then the cost of a product itself will also decrease. For example, each time a farmer hires an illegal immigrant to pick tomatoes, the price of tomatoes falls because the cost to produce them is less. This concept in itself is brilliant. The one small problem with this idea, though, is that it's all a lie. What the price of tomatoes rests on is not merely the cost of production, but is competition. When the owner of a company can hire a barely literate immigrant for half the price compared to a native English speaker, he isn't thinking about how he can sell his tomatoes for far less. No. What he's thinking about is how much more profit he's going to make at the end of the day, because the owner of a business will not charge less for his product if it still sells at its current price. Essentially, all you achieved at the end of the day is getting that CEO to increase his profit at your expense. The cost of that good remains the same as your salary falls. The only real way this could lower the price of tomatoes is if you don't buy them anymore because you can barely afford to live, because immigration lowered your buying power, and that's not good for the economy. Conversely, what actually lowers the prices of goods in the market is not having more workers, which lowers the cost of wages, but having more competition between the businesses themselves. And this can be achieved without an influx of immigrants. You could literally have zero immigration and force the prices to go down through this method. Trust me, we don't need any immigration for prices to go down. That's just a lie they've made up. And I know the language I'm using right now is very divisive. I'm making a conscious choice to say that they're lying, rather than simply that they're mistaken, because people like Hasan, Destiny, and Vaush, they have admitted to the fact that they consciously lie, they engage in bad faith, and they act dishonestly.
Even if she does propositionally, proffer some things that are true, I would never say, Candace is right about some things, because I don't think she's right about anything. She might utter facts or statements that are true, but it's always in service of her ending like anti-Semitic Nazi goal.
That's your strategy, and if you think that the way to push back against radicals is to, even if they say something that's like objectively true, on like some specific historical fact, if someone asks you, hey, like yes or no, Candace Owens says some true things, and you say no.
I understand what you're saying. I'm just saying that like it's the same thing as like what I was saying before, where like if I'm in front of Dave Rubin, I'm never condemning on the left in the presence of this guy, because he's never condemning on the right. I'm not going to give that concession to give the appearance of, because by doing some true things, I'm actually creating a false impression.
You call it selling out your principles. I call it fucking winning. And that's my principle. To win as a socialist, not to lose as a socialist. That's not my principle. I don't give a about principled failure. Principled failure is worth dog.
You have to advocate for a much lighter form of propaganda. You want America, in the way that I feel about it, and if you want America to get out of the way, one thing you have to do is advocate for a lighter form, while simultaneously still doing agitated propaganda that goes beyond, social democratic idea.
These are propagandists, and propaganda by definition is being dishonest. It's a line for a political end. So yeah, they're liars. You can't trust these people. It's unfortunate because a lot of these people I enjoyed listening to, even though I disliked them as people. They had some very powerful arguments. But now whenever I listen to people like Destiny, half the time what's going through my head is what he's saying actually true and something that he believes in? Or is he lying for the sake of winning? I just cannot tell anymore, especially as someone who consciously made an effort previously to hear out the other side. But going back to the points about immigration, they do have another arguments that they utilize against you, which is very dishonest, and I can prove it. What they will say is,
immigrants build more businesses for everybody, which is good for the economy. You said you wanted more competition, so why not have more immigrants so they can start up more companies to compete in the market?
There's one glaring issue with this argument, that being it is made entirely in bad faith. If anything, it's just a red herring in the end. Because if they truly believed this or they wanted this, then why wouldn't we just change the laws or remove the restrictions in place that keep people from building their own businesses? They aren't advocating for that. It is the left that is always in favor of creating new laws and restrictions for private businesses, which makes it even more difficult for you to make one of your own businesses. I mean, serious question. Have you ever tried or thought about making a business? If you've ever looked into this or made any serious steps in that direction, you'll know that the first obstacle you'll face are the mountains of fees that you have to pay or the different licenses you have to obtain to even start. The number one obstacle is the government, and they have no plans of getting rid of them anytime soon. The left, in effect, is imposing restrictions that hurt the everyday American and then offering mass immigration as a solution to the problem they created. And they'll even say that the world is overpopulated. Having too many kids is a bad thing. It's oppressive to women. All you value women for is reproduction. They'll encourage men and women not to get married anymore. Then all of a sudden they'll say, we don't have enough workers. They create terrible solutions for the problems they artificially created. But again, they don't even care if immigrants create new businesses or not. It's not what they're focused on at all. They don't care. And the way you can tell this is just by asking them a simple question. If what you're saying is true, that these immigrants are incredibly valuable to this nation, they create new businesses for Americans, then why not just restrict immigrants from taking our jobs, but allowing these immigrants to create new businesses? We can let in all of those CEOs, all of those entrepreneurs. They can come in, they can create their businesses here, and we don't have to worry about them filling up the gas stations. Let's leave those jobs for Americans who are actually struggling so that they can make a fair wage. But no, they'll reject that because they don't care about it in the end. It's just a red herring because they do want to flood your jobs with these immigrants. So they're never even going to consider what you're saying. The only point of this argument being made is so that you can accept people to come in and take your jobs because that's what they're after, which in the end hurts the low-skill workers more than anybody here. And businesses in general, I'm not even just talking about the elites here, in general, they are taking advantage of this. And I say this as somebody who's in favor of the free market. I think it's a great thing and it can be used to serve the will of the people. Yet at the same time, don't be fooled. Businesses are people, and if there aren't checks and balances to keep them in place, they will take advantage of you. They will literally exploit you. They will exploit their customers and they will exploit their workers because they can make a higher profit if they don't have to pay you as much. And they use immigration for that. And it certainly doesn't benefit everybody here. It benefits one group, one class, but not the other. And we should look out for the people who are lower skilled workers, workers in general. Everybody should benefit here, but they're using the system we have in place so that they can make even higher profits at your expense. It is directly taken from you. You are directly suffering as a result of these businesses exploiting you. How can you expect to compete with somebody who's willing to live with 5 people in a basement on as little money as they possibly can while sending everything they make back home so that they can return to their homes and live like a king? That's how they're taking advantage of our economy. And the American economy should be there to benefit the American citizens, not foreigners and exploitative businesses. And that's it for this video. I mainly use gaming footage because I can produce more content for you quickly while also still working on those high quality videos. And seeing as it was successful before with some of my videos, I thought I'd try to bring it back. See how it goes. Let me know what you think. Be sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. But that's it for this video. And as always, I hope you have a good one.